Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another brand new Mattel Jurassic World figure, as we are taking a look at the second of the newest wave of wild packs. This is the Alioramus, and this is a repaint. This figure has been out previously with a very nice looking paint scheme prior to this, and we now have a second version, which is actually really quite exciting for me. I usually like to get at least a few different repaints of the Mattel figures into my collection, although I will say I am guilty of trying to buy every single one of them. But especially when it comes to the Alioramus, it's exciting because we've only had one so far, so it is quite nice to have a second. As far as the packaging goes, you can see it's all your standard Dino Escape packaging, which is definitely the nicest packaging we've had in the Mattel line so far. And then here on the back, you can see the other figures that are in this wave of wild packs, which would be the Alioramus, which we have reviewed here already, the Brachiosaurus, which we just reviewed a few days back, the Zuniceratops, which is potentially the greatest wild pack or attack pack style figure ever, and then of course the Alioramus, which we are looking at right now. So let's pop this out of its package and take a look at it. And here is our Alioramus, and first time looking at it out of its packaging, it's always the first time you can really get a good feel for the figure, and I will say I really quite like it actually. I think I might like this one better than the previous version. I just feel like the paint scheme is really nice and natural on this one, and the paint application as well is quite beautiful. One thing that's really cool, I actually really like that orange coloration there in the cheek area, and it's like so strange and randomly placed, but it looks really cool. I'm definitely a fan of that. Of course, the sculpt is great. We know that from the previous one, but this newest paint application definitely looks nice as well. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look right now. So as far as this figure goes, again, being a figure we have had in the past, we don't really need to take a look at the sculpt or anything because we have already done that. If you'd like to see a more detailed review of the actual sculpt, you can always watch the other review, which, of course, is the initial review for this figure. But as far as what we're going to do with this review, we really just need to look at what's new with this figure over the previous version, which would be the paint application. And as far as that goes, once we start up here at the head, you can see that the majority of the head is covered with a nice dark brown. And I really, really like that tone of brown. Like, it looks super appealing here on the head sculpt of the Alioramus. I love the feather detail right here as well. It is nice to see that on a Mattel figure. We don't see too many Jurassic figures with feathering, but you can also see that there's an alternate shade of brown that kind of runs here over top of the eye and leaks down into the palette, and it also has kind of a glossy look. And there's something about the Alioramus that Mattel really likes to add that glossy look to it, because the previous version as well had some glossy paint on the face, so we now have that on this one also. And then here on the cheek, you could see what I was talking about with that really nice orangish coloration, and it starts to lead back into the feathers back here, and you could see that as well has a bit of a glossy look. I definitely like that coloration. So random, but such a cool little addition, and plays off of those darker browns there on the face really quite nicely. For the eye, we do have a yellow eye, and it has been actually given a black pupil, which is one thing that the recent Ouranosaurus was missing, but it is nice to see it here on the Alioramus. It also has a beautiful gloss coat on the eye to help give it a nice shine. You can see that the lower jaw is kind of like a light gray, sort of an off-white coloration, and we do of course have an articulated jaw, like we always do, and inside the mouth you can see the teeth are pretty nicely painted, but there is definitely some sloppiness. Like specifically over here, you can really see that some of the paint has run up here onto the upper jaw a little bit. It's not terrible, but of course it is definitely present. The coloration of the teeth is nice though, as it's an off-white. It's not a total bright white, so it has a bit of a more realistic appearance, but the teeth are definitely sloppily painted. You can really see like some of the paint has even kind of almost missed the teeth here in the front, so that is a little bit of a downside. But the tongue is present on the inside of the mouth, and it is painted with a very nice realistic tone of color, and there is also a nice gloss coat. I am kind of shocked though to see that it's only the tongue painted in there, and like when we run up here, usually you have the entire lower part of the inside of the jaw that's painted with this realistic tone of color, but this one does not. It actually only has the tongue here on the lower jaw, and of course we have kind of like those skin flaps here, and then the back of the throat that also includes that coloration, but the gloss coat does make it shine quite nicely. It's just, a little bit missing as far as like some of the paint in there. And then typical Mattel, we can see that the eye on this side has completely missed the mark, almost entirely leading down into the eye socket area as opposed to the eye specifically. It's like down here under the eye socket, but that's just the way it is, I guess. I don't think they're ever going to actually fix the quality control issues when it comes to the placement of the eyes on their figures, and considering this one is brand new, that's a pretty good example of the fact that they still have not actually fixed that issue, and that definitely does look really quite ugly on the figure. As we lead back into the neck, you can see that nice dark brown continues to run along the back. There's like some random white spots here, and I did notice same deal over here, so I don't know if that's just some sloppy paint there as well. It looks like some of the coloration here from the throat just kind of got leaked up here, as we do have a nice bright white actually for the throat, but that of course ends very abruptly right after the throat, which, is okay. It would have been nicer if they would have transitioned to a different coloration here for the underside of the dinosaur, but we just end it all together, and then we just have pretty much the majority is this like very nice variation of brown, but then we have this darker brown and some of the darker brown kind of spots down along the side of the dinosaur, but it completely transitions away before we even reach the tail, and then the tail actually has no paint application at all other than kind of some of those speckles. We can see those dark black speckles that we usually find on Mattel figures. Of course, there is no paint on the nails, kind of a glossy look to them, sort of, but no actual paint application. So as far as this figure goes, I really do quite like it, but of course it really could have benefited from paint running out here onto the tail, a little more paint here on the underside, and painted nails, as well as of course fixing the placement of the eye. But overall it isn't bad. There's the Jurassic Facts app code if you would like to add it to your collection, but still a really nice looking version. But after taking a closer look at it, I'm not entirely sure if I like this one better or the previous one, but it is definitely a nice addition to the Alioramus family. As far as articulation goes for our Alioramus, it is all the same articulation that you had on the previous one, which would be some really nice articulation in the neck, which can allow the dinosaur to look up really high or down really low. Maybe it's getting a drink, maybe it's eating something, who knows exactly. We also have articulation in the arms, as well as articulation in the legs, and then a swivel tail like usual when it comes to this style figure, and of course the articulated jaw, which we already had pointed out earlier, but some pretty nice articulation for a really nicely sculpted figure and decently painted figure. As far as a size goes, for a length on our Alioramus, you are looking at about 6 3/4 inches, or right around the 17 centimeter mark, and then for a height to the top of the head, just shy of 3 1/4 inches, or around 8, closing in on 8.5 centimeters, somewhere around that mark. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, as well as Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, in comparison to our newest variant of the Alioramus, and you can definitely see that, as per usual, it kind of stays right there in that same size range as most attack packs. But regardless, it's really awesome to have an Alioramus in the Mattel line. I said this the first time, and I'll definitely say it every single time, because it's the dinosaur that really hasn't gotten much love, so it is nice to see it actually getting a little bit from Mattel, and also showing you here that with that love, we have a decent size to it. It's nothing overly large, but nothing that's too small. Pretty decent size, I would say, overall, and sticking with that same attack pack size range. So this newest version of the Mattel Jurassic World Alioramus figure is yet another nice version of it. I definitely like the coloration. I of course love the sculpt. I loved it the first time, I love it this time. It's a really beautiful sculpt on the part of Mattel, and definitely I would say one of my favorites as far as the attack pack or wild pack style figures go, just based off of the fact that it's an Alioramus, but also because it is really beautifully sculpted overall. But the paintwork here again is the only thing that's really new in comparison to the previous version, being a wild pack or attack pack style figure. You don't have any kind of different gimmick or anything compared to previous versions of the figure. It's just a straight up repaint, but the coloration that we have been given is quite nice. It's nothing to complain about, I would say, and although it could use a little bit more paint application, what we have been given looks nice and natural on the figure. Of course, the paintwork also looks nice and naturally applied, so it looks more like body color rather than paint on a figure, which is always a plus for any dinosaur model. But the only thing that really could have helped would have been more of that darker paint running out onto the tail, a little bit more coloration on the underside, as well as, again, painted nails. I feel like if they would just add more paint onto the tail and more paint onto like the nails and stuff. And in some cases like this one, a little more paint to the undersides of their figures, it really could make them jump up so much more when it comes to the appeal factor. But of course, we kind of get the bare minimum. Being a wild pack, you don't expect to get any kind of a crazy good paint job, but you don't really expect to get that too much from any of the Mattel figures, I would say, at this point. So it pretty much falls right in the same range as far as the paint job goes with almost every other figure that has come before it when it comes to this type of, wild pack, attack pack figure. It is a little sad because with the wave before this, I felt like there was some really nice paint apps on those figures. Like we had paint running out onto the tail and stuff like that, but they've gone back to not including paint out onto the tail or anything with this particular Alioramus, but still, decent, pretty nice looking paint job, but nothing to go crazy over or hurry up and run out and buy because it's, that golden dinosaur you just need to have in your collection, that grail piece. It's nothing at all like that, but still a pretty decent Alioramus and, worth picking up if you run into it. So if you are interested, make sure you check your local Walmart or Target, as it should be there potentially sometime soon, if not already. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.